Welcome to the deep dive. Whether you're prepping for a massive presentation, trying to catch up on the absolute latest in urban policy, or you're just, insanely curious about how the world around you is actually shaped and constructed, you are in exactly the right place.
You definitely are. We've got a great one today.
Yeah, today we have a very specific mission. We are cracking open a fascinating policy blueprint, pulling from some really extensive documentation sourced from wikiresidents.ca and infodrone.ca.
Both fantastic sources.
Right. And what these sources detail is a highly aggressive, incredibly strategic new master plan from the City of Montreal. It's designed to tackle its housing crisis.
And they're doing it by entirely flipping the traditional script of how a municipality operates.
Yeah, totally. Because historically, city halls operate on a very specific, somewhat passive frequency, right?
Exactly. I mean, a municipality manages the zoning maps, they handle the bureaucratic red tape, they issue the building permits, and then they just sort of sit back.
Right. They wait for private, for-profit developers to take the initiative.
Yeah, to buy up the land and propose a building. But the current administration in Montreal, they looked at this unprecedented housing shortage, which is a crisis affecting major cities globally, not just there.
Absolutely.
And they decided that waiting for the open market to organically self-regulate is just no longer a viable option.
The market simply isn't building fast enough, or affordably enough, really, to meet the demand. So the city is playing its absolute most valuable card, which is its own strategic land inventory.
Which is huge.
It is. Montreal is taking its own municipal plots of land, pulling them out of the vault, and putting them up for sale. But there is a massive string attached here.
Oh, a very deliberate string.
They're using this land to force the construction of 2,000 to 3,000 new housing units on a wildly compressed timeline.
We're talking targeting completion by the years 2027 and 2028.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this.
To understand the sheer scale of this pivot, we really need to look at the underlying philosophy of the Plancher administration's move here.
Because this isn't just about auctioning off municipal assets to balance a budget, is it?
Not at all. Or to replenish city coffers. If the goal were merely a quick cash injection, you just sell these lots to the highest corporate bidder.
Wash your hands of the process.
Exactly. And let them build whatever maximizes their profit. But the source material shows us a completely different mechanism.
Montreal is making a deliberate, calculated move to actively dictate the future of its urban landscape.
By holding the keys to the land, they are forcing the city to become denser, significantly more socially equitable, and much more environmentally resilient.
They've effectively transformed from a passive regulator into a master developer with a strict social mandate.
Which is a massive paradigm shift.
Which naturally leads us to look at the map. Where is this grand transformation actually happening?
It's all over, really.
Yeah, going through the targeted sites in the documentation, you see this isn't just a proposal for one shiny mega tower downtown to act as a Band-Aid.
No, the Plancher administration is pushing a concept they call smart densification across a massive island-wide scope.
The geography of this plan is perhaps its most crucial element, right?
I would say so. The city is performing what you could call urban acupuncture.
Urban acupuncture, I like that.
Yeah, they're not looking to pave over green spaces or build sprawling new subdivisions on the fringes of the island.
They're looking for parcels of land within the existing urban footprint that are currently dormant or severely underutilized, and they're activating them.
Exactly.
I'm looking at the numbers for the Sudowest borough, for instance.
Oh, the potential there is massive.
Right. The plan targets a potential of 559 to 725 housing units just in this one area.
And that's clustering around places like Yonge Street, St. Patrick, St. Ambroise.
The Aswad Park and Eglise Avenue, yeah.
And then over in Ville-Marie, right near the downtown core, they're aiming for another 252 to 323 units.
Around intersections like Viger and de Bouillon, or Mansfield and St. Jacques and Clark Street.
But when you look at those areas today, they are already packed.
That's the thing. How do you inject hundreds of new units into an already bustling neighborhood?
Well, that is the genius of the urban acupuncture approach. By dropping a 500-unit cluster directly into an area like the Sudowest, the city is piggybacking on the infrastructure that's already there.
Ah, so those new residents will plug directly into existing water mains, existing electrical grids.
Existing schools and transit networks, yes. Building a new suburb from scratch requires millions of dollars in new pipes, new roads, and new bus routes.
So injecting density into the urban core avoids the creation of isolated commuter towns.
And maximizes the efficiency of the services the city already funds.
And then there is the absolute crown jewel of the initiative.
The Hippodrome.
Yes. The document highlights this sector, located in the Côte-des-Neiges Notre-Dame-de-Grâce borough, as the flagship project for this entire strategy.
Nemur Hippodrome represents a massive paradigm shift. The ambition for this specific site goes far beyond just putting roofs over heads.
It's explicitly designed from the ground up to become a net zero neighborhood.
Which is incredible.
Net zero on that scale sounds almost like science fiction. We're talking about an entire neighborhood generating as much energy as it consumes.
Exactly that. It minimizes its carbon footprint entirely through hyper-efficient building materials, integrated renewable energy generation, and drastically reduced energy demands.
And the private market rarely delivers a master-planned net zero neighborhood of this magnitude on its own, right?
Very rarely, because the upfront development costs are astronomical.
But because the city controls the land at Nemur Hippodrome, they have the leverage to demand these environmental standards as a condition of development.
Precise.
The documentation shows they are applying these hyper-specific mandates everywhere. Look at Lachinist,
The new district there is completely focused on sustainable mobility.
which means they are prioritizing active transit and reducing the footprint for cars.
Then you have La Savane, bordering Mont-Royal and Saint-Laurent.
The city has marked this as a critical sector specifically tailored for student and family housing.
Even out in Rivière des Prairies, Pointe-aux-Trembles, on Sherbrooke Street East and Irma-la-Vasseur, they're aiming for 336 to 430 units.
They aren't just throwing darts at a map. They are analyzing the specific demographic needs of each borough.
That tailored approach is vital. Targeting students and families in La Savane means they will likely mandate larger apartment layouts.
Like 3 or 4 bedrooms.
Right, which are notoriously absent from the private condo market that usually focuses on highly profitable, tiny one-bedroom units.
I want to share a fantastic interactive exercise straight from our source material that really brings this down to earth for you, our listener.
Oh, the Google Maps trick. This is great.
It is. If you're sitting at your computer or have your phone handy, open up Google Maps, copy and paste this exact address, 6540 Rue Hutchison, Montreal.
The Outremont site. It is a perfect encapsulation of the whole policy.
It really is. The plan slates the specific address for 70 to 90 housing units.
But if you drop into Street View and look at 6540 Rue Hutchison today, you are not going to see a dilapidated building or an empty field.
You are going to see a vast, flat slab of asphalt.
It is literally just a surface parking lot.
When you realize that this dead space is going to be transformed into homes for nearly 100 families, the sheer potential of this policy clicks into place.
Surface parking lots in the middle of dense urban centers are essentially economic black holes.
They generate a fraction of the property tax revenue that a residential building would.
And they contribute absolutely nothing to the social vitality of a neighborhood.
Transforming an asphalt lot into a vibrant residential space is the most efficient way to heal a fractured urban environment.
And doing it without displacing a single existing resident or demolishing historic architecture.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's dig into the financial engine making all of this possible.
Because the economic mechanics detailed in the sources are astonishing.
We're talking about municipal land with a market value well into the tens of millions of dollars.
But the city isn't just giving it away or spending cash directly to build the housing.
Right. They are utilizing a massive multiplier effect. The numbers show that for every single dollar the city invests through this land strategy,
It triggers an estimated leverage of $4 to $6 in outside capital.
that is massive private investment or unlocking federal and provincial housing funds.
To fully grasp how powerful that financial leverage is, we have to look at how a building project is actually funded.
What developers call the capital stack.
Exactly. When a developer, whether corporate or nonprofit, goes to a major bank or a federal agency to ask for a $50 million construction loan, that lender wants to see collateral.
They need to know the project is somewhat de-risked.
In a dense city like Montreal, acquiring the dirt itself is the most expensive, most difficult, and most competitive piece of that puzzle.
So by bringing the land to the table, the city is essentially providing the hardest piece of the collateral.
Precisely. Montreal solves the fundamental bottleneck.
Once the land is secured, that action alone unlocks massive streams of capital from the federal government, the provincial government, and private lenders.
Lenders, who were previously sitting on the sidelines waiting for a viable project to back.
The city's land acts as the key to a very large vault of construction capital.
But there is a massive hurdle when it comes to who actually gets to build on this land.
Right, because if you're a giant corporate developer, you have millions in liquid cash to get a project started.
But this master plan heavily relies on community organizations and nonprofits taking the reins.
And they usually don't have millions of dollars sitting in a checking account.
What's fascinating here is the specific financial tool the city invented to address the exact disparity.
They call it the Fonds Plancher, which translates to the floor fund.
The Planty administration is injecting $3 million into this highly targeted fund.
And that's to provide pre-development loans of up to $250,000 per project.
Yes.
Now, wait a second. I am looking at a master plan demanding 3,000 new housing units across a major metropolitan area.
I know what you're thinking.
$3 million in the grand scheme of real estate might build a handful of single-family homes. How does a seemingly tiny fund like the Fonds Plancher make any dent in a crisis of this magnitude?
That is the natural reaction, but it stems from a misunderstanding of what the money is actually paying for.
Okay, lay it on me.
The Fonds Plancher does not pay for bricks, steel, or construction crews.
So what does it pay for?
It acts almost entirely like seed-stage venture capital for social housing.
Venture capital for social housing. Let's break down what that actually means on the ground for a nonprofit trying to build an apartment complex.
Imagine a local community housing cooperative. They have a brilliant vision for a 50-unit affordable housing building on one of these city lots.
Okay.
They know they can get a permanent mortgage from the federal government to actually build it. But before the federal government gives them a dime, the cooperative has to prove the building won't collapse.
Makes sense. They have to hire architects to draft comprehensive blueprints.
They have to pay notary and legal fees.
They have to hire engineers to conduct extensive soil studies and environmental checks to ensure the land is safe.
And none of those professionals work for free.
You have to pay the architect and the engineer today, even though your massive government loan doesn't come through until next year?
Exactly. These pre-development costs can easily stack up to $200,000 before a single shovel hits the dirt.
A massive corporate developer can just pull that money from their reserves.
But a community cooperative cannot. This lack of initial liquidity is a structural wall.
It's the reason so many incredible, affordable housing projects simply die on the vine. They stall out before they even begin.
The Fonds Plancher acts as a lifeline to cover those specific upfront bottleneck costs,
That $250,000 loan removes the barrier to entry.
ensuring that the entities shaping the future of Montreal aren't exclusively giant corporations, but organizations deeply rooted in the social fabric of the city.
Okay, so the city removes the financial bottleneck with this floor fund. The architects get paid, the permits are filed, and the buildings actually get built. But who is actually living in them? Because whenever I see a crane go up in a major city, my very first cynical thought is, great, more luxury condos with quartz countertops that absolutely nobody in my tax bracket can afford.
It's an incredibly common and completely valid fear. I mean, gentrification is a powerful force.
But the source material addresses this head-on, doesn't it?
It does. The answer to the luxury condo question is an absolute definitive no.
Because the city owns the land, they hold all the leverage.
They are dictating the terms of the sale, and they are enforcing incredibly strict mixed-use criteria.
The documentation outlines a very firm mandate known as the 20% rule.
A minimum of 20% of all housing units built on these strategic plots must be entirely dedicated to vulnerable populations.
That isn't a suggestion. It is non-negotiable social housing permanently baked into the master plan.
And the strategy for affordability goes much deeper than a simple percentage quota.
Right. The text highlights a highly sophisticated tool being deployed to maintain affordability over the course of decades.
The Community Land Trust.
This is the mechanism that guarantees these units remain below market rates in the long term.
Preventing the first buyer from just flipping the property for a massive profit 5 years later.
Let's really dig into the mechanics of a community land trust, because it completely changes the calculus of home ownership.
It really does.
In a normal real estate transaction, you are buying two things. You're buying the physical structure, the wood, the bricks, the roof, and you're buying the dirt it sits on.
Over time, the house itself depreciates because roofs leak and appliances break.
But the dirt underneath it skyrockets in value, simply because the neighborhood around it gets trendier.
And that speculative land value is what pushes the next family out of the market.
So the community land trust severs that relationship entirely.
Under this model, a nonprofit entity, the trust, retains permanent ownership of the land itself.
The resident only buys, or rents, the physical building sitting on top of that land.
So you remove the speculative value of the dirt from the equation entirely.
Precisely. By separating the land from the structure, you strip away the hyperinflation of the open real estate market.
The resident gets a stable, highly affordable home to live in. They can build equity in the structure.
But when they eventually decide to move, the legal framework of the trust dictates that the home must be sold or rented to the next family at a fundamentally affordable rate.
Based on local incomes rather than market speculation.
It permanently insulates that specific parcel of urban space from the wild swings of the housing market.
It ensures that the millions of dollars the city is effectively investing today don't just evaporate into private equity profits 10 or 20 years down the line.
It's a permanent public good. Now, shifting gears slightly, another major concept our sources highlight under the umbrella of social impact is something called proximity urbanism.
Proximity urbanism is the philosophical core of the modern resilient city.
The fundamental idea is that an individual should not be forced to get into a 2-ton metal box and drive for 20 minutes just to meet their basic everyday needs.
You shouldn't have to navigate a sprawling 12-lane highway to buy a carton of milk or drop your child off at daycare.
We see that philosophy reflected directly in the geography of the targeted sites.
These new developments aren't being exiled to the fringes of the island.
They are strategically dropped right on top of existing and future transportation networks.
We're looking at sites physically adjacent to metro stations.
Integrated with the new REM, which is Montreal's massive new automated light rail network.
And directly connected to major protected bike paths.
The explicit goal here is to dramatically increase pedestrian traffic and severely cripple car dependency.
This circles completely back to the environmental mandates, like the net zero ambitions at the Namur Hippodrome site.
Think about the broader impact.
Right. If a city manages to build 3,000 brand new, hyper-efficient homes, but places them in a location that forces all 3,000 of those families to commute by car every single morning,
The environmental gains of the housing are instantly negated.
you have just manufactured a traffic nightmare and spiked the city's carbon emissions.
By anchoring these developments to major transit nodes, the city is engineering an environment where walking, cycling, or taking the light rail is not just an option.
It's the most logical, convenient, and frictionless choice for the resident.
And looking at the documents, Montreal has zero intention of stopping once these initial 3,000 units are underway.
The blueprint briefly notes a robust future planning pipeline.
They're already conducting feasibility studies on sites further east, like Belanger Street in the St. Leonard borough.
And examining various sectors in Mercier, Hochelaga, Maisonneuve.
They are even looking back at the urban core, exploring the potential of targeting unconventional spaces, like the former mini-golf site on Laurier East.
Think about that, taking a recreational relic from decades ago and transforming it into modern housing.
They are also scanning the North Island around Ahuntsic and St. Laurent, mapping out the next massive wave of integration.
That pipeline proves this is not a one-off political stunt designed for a single election cycle.
It represents a systemic, permanent shift in how the municipal government views and manages its entire real estate portfolio.
They've built an apparatus to continuously audit their own assets, ruthlessly evaluate what spaces are underutilized, and seamlessly funnel those properties into the housing pipeline for the next decade.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring this entire blueprint back to you, listening right now.
Why should you care about Montreal's municipal land strategy, especially if you don't even live in Quebec?
What this deep dive illustrates is a profoundly powerful blueprint of what happens when a municipality decides to stop being a passive bystander.
And act as a direct, forceful catalyst for change.
Economically, we are looking at a masterclass in leverage. A city is using its dirt to stimulate its entire construction sector,
while simultaneously setting up a system that will generate recurring property tax revenues for generations to come.
And socially, the ramifications are massive. The city is taking dormant, actively harmful urban spaces, cracked asphalt parking lots, and abandoned commercial zones, and breathing life into them.
More importantly, through the deployment of community land trusts and the Fonds Plancher, they are guaranteeing Permanent, affordable homes for thousands of families.
Entirely insulated from the speculation of the open market.
If you are the kind of person who wants to see the receipts and track the progress of this massive undertaking,
And the source text gives us the exact tools to do it.
there are several official resources you can dive into.
You can head over to the City of Montreal's official portal and pull up the press releases from March 9, 2026.
Search for specific terms like 3,000 housing units or Fonds Plancher.
If you really want to get into the weeds, you can explore their open data portal at denise.montreal.ca and search the phrase municipal buildings for housing purposes.
That will give you the exact GPS coordinates of every single lot we've discussed today.
You can also monitor the websites of the city's implementation partners. Look up the SHDM, which is essentially the city's own paramilitary housing corporation.
Or a nonprofit called Bâtir Sans Quartier, which is the organization actively helping these community cooperatives get off the ground.
That is where you'll see the actual architectural blueprints and floor plans once these pre-development loans do their job.
This raises an important question.
Let's hear it.
As we watch Montreal systematically audit its map, transforming flat surface parking lots and forgotten parcels of land into thousands of sustainable, permanently affordable homes, we must turn that lens outward.
To other cities.
Yes, if a municipal government can successfully act as both a venture capitalist and a master developer simply by unlocking the potential of its own dormant spaces, what other hidden municipal assets are out there?
That's a great point.
Think about the city or town you live in right now. Consider the sprawling, empty public administration buildings, the outdated industrial infrastructure rusting by a river, or the massive abandoned commercial zones from the retail apocalypse.
What else is sitting right in plain sight, completely ignored, that could be radically repurposed to solve the next major societal crisis? That is exactly the kind of perspective-shifting question we love to leave you with. Next time you walk to get a coffee or commute to work, take a long look around your own neighborhood.
Look at that fenced-off empty lot, that crumbling warehouse, or that massive expanse of surface parking.
And try to imagine what it could actually become if your city decided to finally play its most valuable card. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring the policies shaping your world.
Keep questioning the status quo.
And keep analyzing the blueprint of your own city. We will catch you next time.